was looking for the black dot.
That thought they had registered. So that was. So I was just done. So I came home.
I know, but
So
she's at
I checked in
5:30. I
at
don't want
Hunt Brook at the theater after I delivered the machines to the courthouse.
Okay, sorry, you're good. Good evening and welcome to a special meeting of the Tipton Community School Corporation School Board. Tonight we are interviewing for the vacant seat that's become available on our school board. We have 7 applicants tonight and each of them will receive 25 minutes for us to ask questions and interview them with a 5-minute transition time. I would just for the board, I think it would be best if we stuck to the interview questions that were sent out simply for the sake of timing. Also, just so we have kind of an equal opportunity, so everybody's hearing the same things, being asked the same things. So I brought you in about 15 minutes before our first applicant, simply so we can see if we have any questions about the questions or about our proceedings tonight or anything like that.
Gonna give the candidates like a certain direction to keep their answers short. I mean, 25 minutes. Like, what's your anticipation for answer time?
Yeah, I'm probably going to encourage them to take about 2 minutes or so to answer each one, just to, help them kind of pay attention. But most of these questions, I guess anyone could take them and stand as long as they want.
Yeah.
So, is there any question or anything that you would like us to ask that we don't have on our?
So we have space on the floor, like 30 seconds to answer some of them. We have extra time and something to mind if I was to ask.
Yeah, I think if we have time, there's no reason not to.
I think that all makes sense.
Yeah, we don't take public comments tonight, we're just here with them, allowing it to be open to the public. Yeah. I'm glad if it gave us the whole 15
And
minutes.
the live stream will continue on for the duration of our schedule tonight. Okay?
Yes, until we adjourn.
Okay.
I'm really looking forward to just hearing what people have to say and looking for a new team member. I think that'll be encouraging.
And just housekeeping wise, so that anyone who is joining us online, the number of applicants that we have this evening, we have 7. We have 7 applicants, 25 minutes-ish each. Okay?
This time, feel free to talk among yourselves until our first applicant arrives.
Sounds great. Thank you. Thanks for organizing it. You should work at Chick-fil-A's drive-thru, right? Did I see that voter turnout was about, 66% or something? Is that what I saw?
Yep.
For the county? That seems excellent.
Well, in years, so.
Overall?
23%.
Well, in the year of a presidential race, you get a lot more people turn out, right?
That's still very high for TikTok.
Yes.
Oh, that's fine.
Hi there.
Nice to meet
Hi.
you.
Thank you so much for coming. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
How about
Um,
that? Walk in and
We'll
right
just
out
be
there,
ready.
right?
I was sitting in my car just waiting.
Well, that's
for your
perfect.
time. Yeah,
That's
that's good.
perfect.
So I'm Jennifer Humrickhouse. Thank you so much for your interest in the school board. Tonight we have about 10, 11 questions for you and about 25 minutes for you to answer. So you don't have to feel like you need to take more than just a couple minutes to answer or as you need time for that. So anyways, and you go by Tammy?
I go by Tammy.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So would you be willing to just start out by maybe just telling us a little bit about yourself and why you would like to be on the school board? I know you mentioned that in your application, but just so we can hear from you.
I'm native Tipton, and I graduated from Tipton High School in '74. I went to Hobbs Grade School, which is still standing. Someone is living there. And my parents had gone there from the time they were in kindergarten through 8th grade. So pretty much my entire beginning of my first part of my life has been here. And then I couldn't wait to get out of here. So I went to the University of Evansville. I have a bachelor's in nursing, and then I have a master's degree in nursing administration also. I got a very good education from U of E. And I knew I needed to be in a small school, coming from a small school. And I had lots of advantages working for the hospital that I did, and was able to move up the ladder quite quickly within our hospital institution. And I have twin boys, and they were born in Evansville in 1992. And in 1999, our hospital was sold to St. Mary's, which is now Ascension. And as life offers you opportunities, my husband was offered a partnership with what was then Baker and Daniels, which is now Drinker, Baker, whatever it is. And so we moved to South Bend. My boys were in the Catholic school system in Evansville, and then we were in the Catholic school system in South Bend, and that was St. Joe, South Bend. So I cried all the way from Evansville to about Valparaiso, because I really did not want to leave Evansville, because I'd been there for 25 years. And anyway, South Bend was a wonderful opportunity for my husband and myself, and then my children. St. Joe Grade School was a very good school system. And as luck would have it, we happened to pick a house in a neighborhood not close to the school, but we instantly had these carpools, and because we had to drive. And so anyway, we were in the Catholic school system, had a wonderful subdivision of friends and family, and then my husband died in 2001 at work, and so then I had the decision of what I was going to do, and I had not worked when we left Evansville. I didn't have to, and so I had lots of wonderful advice from the law firm and friends. And so after a year of my husband passing, I went to work for Memorial Hospital. And the first part of my career in nursing had always been in the operating room. And so I'm quite adjusted to dealing with characters, good and bad. There's lots of good doctors out there, but there are some that are not so good. And then the latter part of my career was in nursing informatics. And so I was installing healthcare systems for our hospital. Then my father and brother asked me to move back home, and I did in 2004. And the boys didn't want to leave South Bend, but I brought them. And it happened to be their going into their 6th year, so middle school here. So they were not the only new kids, because the other Catholic kids were coming in also. And the boys adjusted very quickly. I went to work immediately for the canning factory and the farm. And so then fast forward a few more years, and I married Don Havens, and I still work on the farm, and I have been on several committees in the community. The Encore Center, that was for quite a while. That was kind of a legacy because my dad had been on the Encore board. In fact, it's the Tipton County Council on Aging is the correct name, and then the Encore board, what they support. And then I was on the hospital board for 12 years, and then I'm on the cemetery board. And part of the reason for that is when Don became mayor, he realized that the cemetery needed some attention related to documentation. And so I picked a software program to be installed for cemetery. And I plan to continue working for a little while longer. I think I have a lot to offer that I know a lot of people in the community. I have a good education. I think I speak well and represent myself and my community. And I'm here to help.
Thank you so much. We'll now go through the rest of our questions.
So you detailed some experience for us and appreciate that. If you give me one part of your experience or your education you think is really applicable to the work that we do here on the school board.
Well, part of it is that I have been, of course, in the school systems with the Catholic school systems, which is very different from this. Also working as adjunct faculty at IUK, I had experience at a collegiate level. And I have an extensive background on finance, being in administration, and my experience in the operating room. I had a budget of over $12 million and 150 people under me and 150 doctors. And so I like numbers. Numbers mean something, and you will always get, when you add 2 + 2, it will always equal 4, and that will never change.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hi, Tammy. What do you know about our school that you think is the single best thing about Tipton Community School Corporation?
I think that you have a good base and a good community that cares, that wants to add people, good people, not only to the community, but to the school and to the faculty and education. And we need to build on that and support each other. And I think that's what it takes. It, you know, the slogan, it takes a village, which is passe, but it's true. You can't do it alone. You have to have help. And with Tipton being small, with the intentions of growing, you can keep that community feel and community base.
What do you believe our schools should be accomplishing?
Everything, everything can improve. And I think that, you're working, all of you and all the teachers and administration, to improve the scores. I think that's one of the things that people, well, I look at when I see it in the paper. I look at Carmel, I look at Westfield, I look at Scienceville. And I did look at those before I decided to move to Tipton, because I could have lived in Scienceville and go back and forth to work. And I think when we're trying to attract people to Tipton, that they're gonna look at the scores and see that we are continuing to improve those skills and those scores. And I think the other thing is all the other support systems that are in place that go along with that. You can't just have a good football program. You can't just have a good arts program. You can't just have a good agricultural program. And all of those are strengths that I think that I've seen that have built in the years since I've been back. And I think that's, you just have to keep after the scores and keep the kids learning and supporting the teachers and the children.
My question is about what area of the school system could improve, but based on your questionnaire, could you mention you wanted to attract families to Tipton? Can you roll that into where we could improve, how we can attract families to Tipton?
I think one of the things that I've seen is that the superintendent is working with the mayor to attract families. The mayor and the commissioners need to work together as best they can in the community to bring companies here and attract those companies to our school system. We also need a planned growth. And it can't be in silos. People have to talk to each other and work together. There is no way that the school system could take an influx of 300 new kids next fall. There's no way that it could be done. It's got to be a slow, a planned growth.
What do you believe is the role of the board and what is the role of the superintendent?
Role of the board is to support the superintendent and to help guide the entire education program for our school system. He can't do it alone, or she can't do it alone. And the guidance has to come from the people who are sitting here, because you are who are representing the community. And the superintendent has to listen to the board to know what's going on in the community. He can't know everything. We all have different bits and pieces. Not everyone hangs out with the same crowd. Not everyone goes to the same church. Not everyone goes to the same activities and events. So you all have ears and can pass on what you're hearing to the superintendent.
So again, either from your time in the parochial schools or when your kids were here, what kind of criteria do you use when you're evaluating educational programs?
What I looked at, I did look at the educational scores. One of the other things that I looked at for my kids, twins, but very different. And I knew that a small community would be good for them for different offerings. I offered one of my sons the opportunity to switch and go to Guerin or to Brebeuf for other educational opportunities. And he did not want to go. He'd already established his friend group. And so he worked on his education here and did very well. And my other son enjoyed the other activities more as the sports. And so we took advantage of being a smaller school. You know, I knew that they were good enough to excel and that they could excel in sports or academics or arts.
Thank you.
The school board not very often does face some criticism. How do you handle that in response to it?
Of course you're going to get criticism. No one can ever do it right. I mean, it's not a perfect system. And it has to be that you all have to be united. And even if you don't agree with each other, you have to decide what's best for the school system. And you can still be vocal and express how you believe and what you think. But in the end, I think you still have to come together and say, okay, we made a decision as a board, and we're going to stick to that decision.
My question is about the confidentiality the board has to keep. Do you have any experience with, probably from nursing you do, but confidentiality and do you think that would be an issue for you because you do know so many people in town, keeping things confidential?
No, I don't think that'll be a problem. That's one of the things that, you know, I have sworn to as far as being a nurse and the confidentiality. And then also I held a high degree of confidentiality being on the hospital board also.
Tammy, as you're probably well aware, being on the school board requires a pretty decent time commitment as far as from month to month. But in the initial time frame, it takes about 50 plus hours of training just for the first year alone. And then we really do value the professional development that we really try to commit to as a school board through conferences and training and that kind of thing. Does your schedule allow time for you to be able to commit both that training time and then also the month-to-month time commitment?
My schedule's pretty flexible. It's not very flexible during harvest, we'll just say. It's a little less flexible then. But I am trying to back away. I'm teaching my son, Robert, my job, and trying to wean away from the day-to-day task. But I don't really expect him to fix dinner for the guys 4 out of 5 nights a week. But I went in today at 10 o'clock and left at noon and didn't go back, and I don't know what my hours will be tomorrow.
Sure.
So it is, I am blessed in that it is flexible, and I'll say that's one of the things that over the past 20 years or 40 years of working that, you know, being in the hospital situations and systems, being very regimented on time and scheduling, and then having the freedom to come and go as I please is quite nice.
Okay, well, I think that's all of our questions for you. Do you have any questions for us?
When will you decide?
Yes. So after this meeting, we're going to take a couple of days as a board to just consider what, direction we want to go, who might become the best applicant, and then you'll hear from me at some point. But our decision will be finalized on our school board meeting next Tuesday, the 12th,
Which, I cannot attend.
maybe.
You weren't sure of that. But that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah, I don't know that, but okay, thank you for letting us know. I'll make a note of that and be sure to remember it at this
Okay.
point.
All right. Thank
So-
you very much.
Okay, thank you so much
Thanks,
for
Dana.
coming in.
Can I ask just real quick, just
Yes.
so, off of number 10, I just saw you were still involved with the health department and the Fairview Cemetery.
Yes.
How many hours of time commitment do those two boards take for you?
The health department is 8 out of 12 months meetings, and that's generally on Wednesday evenings, Wednesday evenings last an hour. The cemetery board, I'm the secretary, and so those meetings are generally once a month. And so an hour for the meeting, an hour to 2 for me to do the minutes and the prep work. The mayor did come to the meeting last month and did tell us that we had a project in place to expand the cemetery to the north, the 10 acres. And we've been working on that for about 5 years, and every year putting money into the budget to move that process along. And as rumors had it, I heard that he was not going to put any money into next year's budget to move that project along, and he did announce that. So that will take, since I don't have that project to work on, it's more just a housekeeping month-to-month meeting for the cemetery.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, we're a little ahead of schedule, but Brittany, would you be willing to go early? Thank you. How are you? Good. Good. Thank you so much for coming.
Yes.
So in front of you, we have about 10 questions, which you've just kind of heard a little bit about. And unless we have anything else, we'll kind of stick to this and give you a couple minutes just to answer each one. I know you mentioned some of this in your application, but would you be willing to tell us a little bit about yourself and why you would like to be on the board?
Sure, absolutely. So I am born and raised in Tipton, been here my entire life, and I have served the community my entire adult life. So the community definitely holds a special place in my heart. My husband, Mr. Johnson, is the principal of the elementary school. I have a 7th grader at Tipton Middle School. So I'm really familiar. Again, I've been in the community for almost 40 years. So the school has just always held a special place in my heart. My background is in education. I have my undergrad in early childhood and my master's in administration and supervision. And I have used those degrees over the last 17 years, and I currently serve as the Director of Operations at the Boys and Girls Club. I've been in that role for almost 8 years, and the 7 years prior to that, I served on the Boys and Girls Club Board of Directors in capacities of Secretary, Vice President, and President. So I think one perspective that I would like to see, or I would like to bring to the table, is that education background and that youth focus. We do a lot of work, and I say I do a lot with the school because of Brian and because of the club, but there's a lot of work going on in our community to strengthen the corporation and strengthen other organizations in the community, and just to be able to be a voice for the youth and the parents in the community would be a great opportunity to.
Well, you've detailed, I
Sure.
guess I don't need to introduce myself to
Right.
you.
We know.
So what aspect of your education or your time at the club or whatever do you think really would transpose over to your role on the board?
Sure, I think it's perspective. With my role at the Boys and Girls Club, I have been able to build incredible relationships with the youth, of course, but also the parents and the families that this community serves. We also employ a lot of your high schoolers, and so really, when I look at perspective, I'm able to bring the whole gamut. You know, we have some of our 5-year-olds that we serve, all the way up to 18-year-olds that we serve through this organization, and then the parents that you guys are serving. They're sitting at my front door daily, and so just being able to kind of bridge that. One big thing that I do in my role now, and I think that would serve the school board well, is the advocacy piece of it. We have a lot of great things going on in this community, and the school corporation is one of those great things. And just having somebody who is trusted by the parents. My relationship with the parents is very neutral. They'll receive things from me in my role at the club that comes off as non-confrontational and helpful and in an assisting way. And so they seem to receive information a different way because of my role. And I think that the advocacy piece is something that we could use.
In working with the schools, whether it's through your daughter or through your work with the club, what's the single best thing about our school system, you know?
Historically, I would say the growth that I've seen over the last 10 years. Going through the organization, I didn't teach at Tipton Elementary School, but I did teach in the community. And then just being able to walk alongside my daughter as she's going through the school, and again having Brian at home, just seeing the growth and the direction that the corporation is going. I see a focus in a way that maybe I didn't see before. I see intentionality. I think that's something that I've actually put on the application. Like, there is an intentional effort in place that is different than what I've ever seen in the past, and with the whole idea of moving us forward.
What do you believe our schools should be accomplishing?
I think that one of the bigger challenges right now, we keep talking and using the term the COVID years or the COVID kids. And I think that while that exacerbated some of the achievement gaps for a lot of our students, I believe that those gaps existed prior to COVID, maybe not at the same level, but just continuing to focus efforts on closing those gaps. And I know that the state is going in that direction, and when you look at closing those gaps at a younger age, the success rate as the kids continue through the education system increases exponentially. But using those data points to really hear and focus the instruction and the development of what we're putting in front of our students.
My question is about where we can improve, and in your survey, you had said we need to use educational practices to close the educational gap. Could you give me a little more what that would look like?
Sure. So one thing that that I've learned over the last couple of years, again, first of all, Eric, my name is Brittany Johnson. I didn't actually introduce myself because I know everybody, but I don't think that we have met.
I don't think so.
I apologize.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Going back to those data pieces and using the instruction that's in front of us, and I know that especially at the elementary level, again, I'm privileged to kind of the direction they're going from an instructional standpoint, but looking at having common instruction across the grade levels and common assessments across the grade level, so you're really giving every kid in the grade level the same opportunities to succeed. And with those, then you can more clearly define what those gaps are, and then be more succinct in addressing those gaps.
What do you believe is the role of the board, and what is the role of the superintendent?
Sure. So I firmly believe the role of the board is to support the superintendent. I know that while I have not served in a superintendent role, serving in an administrative role, there are so many irons in the fire all day long, every day, and none get put out before the next one gets put in. And so really taking the opportunity to support the superintendent in that, it doesn't necessarily mean agreeing with or not questioning or not challenging certain practices or procedures or processes, but really coming alongside them and asking the questions that would then develop what that next step might be. And then as far as the superintendent's role, it really is managing the buildings and the corporation. One thing that the roles within education really, one of the biggest pieces, it's a human capacity. We're all human with so much capacity, and we're working with humans all day long, every single day. And so just really looking at how can we support the superintendent so that they can best support the people that are working underneath them.
All right. Well, obviously, in your role at the club and other places that you've taught, what criteria do you use when you're evaluating an educational program or curriculum?
Sure. Growth. Growth is one of the bigger factors. Like I said, in my experience in education, it is very common for students to be underperforming, regardless of what the reason is. That's not too far-fetched. It's the growth. When you can establish that there's data to support that the kids are growing and closing that gap along the way, that to me would be one of the components for establishing whether it was successful.
Okay, thank you.
How do you respond and handle criticism?
So being from this community, everybody has an opinion and everybody likes to share their opinion. And I think that that's something that anybody sitting in this role just has to understand and be okay with. As far as handling criticism and addressing it, it's all about respect. Again, it goes back to you don't have to agree with everybody, but you can be respectful in the manner in which you handle it. I also believe a lot, I carry a lot of value with the idea of transparency. Sharing as much as you can, and I know that we talked about confidentiality in a minute, but sharing as much as you can and giving the public as much information really curbs a lot of that criticism. Most of the criticism in my experience in the community is the lack of understanding, not necessarily even a challenge to the process. It's just simply a lack of understanding. So addressing it with providing.
You know what's coming.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to understand that is a concern
Yeah,
in your
absolutely.
relationship. You mentioned talking to your husband, which is perfectly fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
You guys have similar jobs with similar kids, but there are things, personnel issues, finance issues, things we say about the superintendent behind his
Right.
back. I mean, those kind
Right,
of things.
right. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but seriously, to the confidentiality issue, how will you handle that at your home?
I mean,
Just
really,
kidding, right?
really, it is just valuing and understanding that that is part of the role. When I work with families now, and like as you said, that Brian and I share a lot of families and share a lot of kids, and those that we can collaborate on, then by all means do so. But otherwise, you wouldn't know this other than me just telling you. But Brian and I we did have a professional relationship prior to our personal relationship, and working in an educational setting, and we've already kind of experienced what that process would look like. This might sound, I don't know any other way to say it, but when it comes to personal and professional, both of us are like separated almost to a fault. I mean, I appreciate it because then when you go home, it's not so heavy. But again, I go back to just knowing my personality and the way that I value the role, the expectation of the role is simply to carry that. One of the questions I even asked Brian before applying was, I know that obviously Brian and Dr. Glaze have a professional relationship and a personal relationship just in their working setting and work setting. And I know the value of that, to be able to have somebody to talk to and to be able to have somebody to bounce ideas off of. And I didn't want my role, should this come to fruition, compromise that for them. And so just kind of being clear about that with Brian as well. if this was something that came, I would want to make sure that there's some separation there.
Brittany, I know that you probably heard me saying this before, but just talking about the time commitment that being on the board requires, especially in the ramp up of the first year. The learning curve probably is to all of us can attest to how significant that learning curve is in the first year, at least 50 plus hours in trainings, et cetera. Just wondering about what that looks like for you as time and scheduling and if that's doable or not.
I would anticipate it not being an issue. One thing that I'm really fortunate in the current role that I serve at the club is the value that we place on community involvement. So I also serve on Prevent Child Abuse for Tipton County, and I sit on several youth serving agencies, youth serving committees throughout the county. And the club has always been very gracious in allowing that to be part of my role, because again, if I'm working in an area that will better serve our youth, ultimately it's better serving our organization.
Okay, well, those are all of our questions. Do you have any questions for us?
But no, I do appreciate the opportunity, and like I said, serving on the board before, of course, this is different, and the school corporation is much larger than the Boys and Girls Club of Tipton County. But just understanding that the role is a serious role, and it's one that I would.
Thank you so much for coming in and
Thank you
doing
for
an
that.
interview. We
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
appreciate it. And so you will hear from me hopefully by sometime before the weekend
Okay.
or around that time. And then we will need to, as a board, make a decision to vote that person in on November 12th.
Okay, sounds great.
All right,
guys.
thank you.
Thanks, Brittany.
Michelle, are you prepared to go early? Thank you. Hi. Thank you for coming. Great. Well, why don't we start off with, could you tell us, I mean, most of us might maybe know you, but tell us a little bit about yourself and why you would like to be on the board.
Okay. I am not from Tipton, as the other two applicants. I am an Army brat. I have lived in several states and gone to several schools from kindergarten through graduation, landing in Tipton in 1999, a little bit ago, and raising my children here from kindergarten through graduation. I live here, work from home now, and have seen my children through every grade in these three buildings. So that's near and dear to my heart. I never had that opportunity that my children had, and it brings some perspective and comparisons of what it is to stay within one school system throughout your whole education versus being a new kid every other year. While it developed me to be able to speak to people, I see those differences in my children by them knowing the same people throughout their education. So it's really different perspectives. But yeah, I've been here since early 2000, 1999, 2000, and have enjoyed this community and have, through life changes, have decided that, this is where I wanted to make my home.
What aspects of your education or your previous experience do you think really translates over to the board, what we do here for the school corporation?
So my education, I have an associate's degree in business administration and a bachelor's degree in business management.
obviously, the business perspective of being able to not only manage people, but manage situations from a business aspect. My current role as a project manager for a software service company enables me to be able to see a project or concern from beginning to end. So being able to take a step back and see the bigger picture of what things might pop up, so to speak, happens every day for me in my current role. So not only in my education, my work, prior to my current position, I've worked in community banking here in Tipton County for close to 20 years, from 2000 until 2021, I think. So that also provides me with some insight into the community. Not only did working in banking provide doors for me to enter into, be able to sit on boards such as the city BPA, the city planning commission, and I also liaison over to county planning commission as well. So I think there's, a broad spectrum that I could bring to the board through those connections and my education, and just through work experiences as well.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Michelle. Tell me what the best thing is about Tipton Community School Corporation. Single best thing you know about school.
It's hard. With my history, it's hard for me to say just one thing.
It can be a couple. It's okay. It's that
You really emphasized one.
I did. After I realized I was
And I
maybe
was-
a little
and
too
I-
strong.
And I was trying to say, like, I'm like, you could probably say
I know.
it.
I was like, only one.
Only
Choose
one.
one, Michelle. No, it can be whatever. Thank you.
For Tipton Community School Corporation, and even Northern School Corporation, our community is amazing. They really do step up and step behind the school system. And I guess it kind of leans into the second thing is just being able to be, I have it written down. The traditions, all, things that we have from the football games, the basketball games, and the community coming out to support with even, things from volleyball. I'm lucky enough that my children were involved in extracurricular activities to be able to witness some of those values that, it's not just the sport, it's do you have the academics to go along with it, and having coaches that say this is important, the sport's important, but if you're not doing the grades, you're not really participating fully within your extracurricular activity. So it all boils down for me to community and how the community supports school corporation.
What do you believe our schools should be accomplishing?
So I have 4 quasi-recent graduates from our high school, and I think that the biggest thing that I see, not only economically within our community, but within the United States, is that there is a difference that is happening and a shift from college kids going to college. And I believe that, we should work harder at being able to bridge some gaps for our high school students into what is really available at John Hines, what may be workforce ready. I know that we do have a work ethic certificate and that there are avenues. I don't know that the kids really know fully what all that is. I know there's meetings, and I know that the kids have, guidance counselors and whatnot, but out of my 4 children, I don't know that anyone really understood what a lot of that meant. Just making sure that while you're providing that information, that the student is understanding that information. Those are 2 different things to me.
My question, excuse me, my question is about where the school system can improve. And in your questionnaire, you mentioned creating a more inclusive environment where students have any equal opportunity to thrive. Could you put your answer around what we need to do there? It seems like a place you want us to improve.
So one of my children that has recently graduated from Tipton is disabled. And Allie started school here in second grade where I have a blended family. And one of the reasons why we decided to stay in Tipton is talking to the school in regards to how they were going to support her and include her and make this, an environment that she can learn and thrive and be considered normal, so to speak. Improvement-wise, I think that there's more opportunities to involve students of that caliber into our community, so they can get some real-world experiences, not just a couple here and there. I know that there are some teachers in the past that would take students, to the restaurant, and they would work. Things like that, I think, should happen a little bit more for the students that we're not that traditional student that's not going to further their education once they get out of high school. I know there's support from the state. I know there's KSAC. I know those avenues that are there, but I think the school can support that a little bit better.
Thank you. What do you believe is the role of the board, and what is the role of the superintendent?
Support, just being able to support what the superintendent is intending to do within these walls. Making, having questions, pushing some limits of why. Asking why is not a bad thing. It's not negative. Asking why educates you.
And then the role of the superintendent.
The superintendent is the person in the face of the school corporation and what's happening within this building and driving what happens within these buildings, including the physical building and the people inside of it that serves.
Perfect. What kind of criteria do you use when you're evaluating programming?
I have not been put into a situation where I would have to say, okay, well, I would want my kid to go to this school versus that school. With the exception of when I did get married, we compared Tipton to LaPel and what was going to best support our children. And not only was it the interactions with staff, it was also the class size that we did look at. Yes, LaPel was a 4-star school at that point in time, but when we met with individual schools and how they would support our 4 children, that one was a diabetic, one was disabled, and then 2 children, how would they be supported? In my opinion and my husband's opinion, it was Tipton stood out. There was that extra yearning to ensure that our children's safety and further growth.
How do you respond to criticism?
I don't get criticized. I do everything right. Criticism can come in all shapes and forms. I think when you're faced with criticism, it's how you respond. It's taking that deep breath and processing what that criticism is and formulating a response versus a reaction.
My question is about confidentiality. A lot of things we discuss or are privy to as a board that are confidential. You have any experience with that? Or?
Yes, sir. Just about my whole entire professional career has been within financial institutions, and the majority of it was within financial institutions within this community of 50 counties. So, I would work with people's money, and there's no discussion about that ever. Even if you know that you just didn't pay a check for somebody and you just see them at the McDonald's, you're still going to say hi. It's not that difficult, in my opinion, just because it's been such a big part of my life, almost half of my life in financial institution working. I think it becomes more than second nature for me.
My question, Michelle, is about time commitment. Just knowing how much time, especially in the initial learning curve of the year, 50 plus hours of training, plus meeting prep every month, that kind of thing. Just curious about what your schedule looks like and if you can accommodate that and kind of what that looks like for you.
Well, I don't have any kids in high school anymore, so my schedule has opened up a little bit. I work very much on a very strict Google Calendar, and if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't happen. Of course, there's emergencies that happen or meetings that do come up that I have to put in order of most importance. But I'm really good at scheduling. As long as I have some advance notice, it's usually not an issue. I do travel for work. Occasionally, probably 4 to 5 times a year, I will be traveling. I do not get to choose when I travel. I am basically told when I travel, and it is for a week at a time. So that's probably that would probably be the biggest issue, is if I would have travel for work during a meeting or any type of training that might arise. It might be a scheduling conflict. But as long as I usually have some advance notice outside of those 3, 4, 5 times a year, I'm pretty flexible.
4 nights a year would be not travel.
I know.
Michelle, I had one more question. Are you still on the Board of Zoning Appeals and the Plan Commission?
I am.
I don't know if that falls under Indiana Constitution
It
Code.
does. It does. I would have to step down from the BCA.
And you'd be okay with that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Great. That's all. That concludes all of our questions. Do you have any questions for us?
No, I think the biggest question was, what was the timeline going to look like? I guess the additional question after to go along with that is, so for the next meeting on the 12th, for the decision to be made, then the person that you choose would then be attending the December meeting
Yes.
as a member, and then that's when training and all
Yes.
that would start.
So the timeline, yes, you would be starting to attend in December. And because we have a new school board member coming on that was just elected as well, that school board training begins, what did we say, early, like January, February. Initially, then just meeting with us and, starting to kind of move in. It's a little bit of a process, but yeah. Yes, like we would want you to attend, sorry. Yes. We've all been there. Okay. So there is some truth to that. Does that answer? Yep. All right. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
coming.
Thanks, Michelle. See ya.
I think at this time we're going to take just a brief break, and let's say we'll meet back here in like 5-10 minutes. Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe, is she planning to come back? Or do you- Okay, okay, maybe we go for it. Okay, get it. It's not like her to get up, and I was like, something's happening. And as sure as she sat here and said, yeah, everything's good, like, kids are under control, and then, yeah. Yeah, perfect, thanks, Beth.
Did she leave?
Diane, they had she had a dishwasher or something let loose at home and some water damage at the house. So
Is she gonna try and come back, or?
That I don't know.
Who's gonna go next then, Jim? Oh, we're way out. Dedicated. You have a question you want me to slide in there? No. What? Just- She gets a participate, she gets a participants. She gets a participants question.
Tropics.
Slow down.
No driver's doppelganger there?
Oh my gosh, there was a girl working behind the candy counter.
Yes.
I told my wife, I said, that girl's not related to Amber.
No, that's great. You know, and I haven't
Oh my
walked
God.
into Hortons for,
It
it's
was
been a long time.
shocking. This girl could be
Really?
your daughter. Oh.
Really? Nope. And I'm not crafty.
There you go.
So-
The double.
Well, she was working in the candy department.
Right. I can bake. I can bake, but I am not crafty. That's interesting. I'll have to take a look at that.
Yeah.
I can figure that out. That's a good guess.
She could be a butler theta, I'm telling you.
Well, maybe my daughter's gonna become a butler. Theta.
Oh, really?
Perhaps. I mean, I don't know. She's considering going to Butler or Purdue. Either way, she's Butler. So she's not gonna apply.
Mr. Fletcher, are you ready for us?
Sure.
Okay, we're ready for you. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming in. There's
My
a
pleasure.
set of questions in front of you, and you can have that bottle of water if you'd like it as well, but thanks so much for your application. A lot of us know you, but would you please go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and why you would like to become a member of the school board?
Okay, Well, I'm a retired Marine. While I was in the Marine Corps, I worked with a lot of high school bands. I was kind of like a liaison for the high schools and wherever I was, and I also was I did the instrument tryouts for the Marine Corps. When I retired from the Marine Corps, I went to Fairfield High School where I taught band there. And I also worked with a lot of other bands. I would do a lot of outside work. Then I heard this school system had an opening, so I came down here, and I've been here I came here in 2002. I've been here ever since. I've been working in the school in some capacity, just to help or whatever, but I was a band director here for 16 years. My wife fell, and she has Parkinson's, so I retired at that time, and then I had Marion call me. They said, hey, we got to have a band director here. So I went up there for 3 years, and believe me, 3 years is all I could take. But I've always been in a small school. I've never been in a large school other than there. But I do help a lot of bands around here. I also sub. I sub it here and also at Sheridan. The reason I sub it here at Sheridan is because I like the kids. They're good kids, and they have good stats. Believe it or not, I've subbed at some other schools around here that I would not sub. So I think it says a lot about the school system, the kids, and like we have. As far as wanting to be on the school board, I really believe in working together for student success. And I work with a lot of teachers here. I work with a lot of kids. And I think that it's just a great place to meet personally. I came here, I stayed 2 days before I interviewed for the job here. And I absolutely fell in love. Why did I fall in love with kids? Well, first of all, it's very clean. Second of all, the people are great. The minute they found out I was trying out for the band director, they go, well, we're in, and they started talking all about it. They have a community theater here, choir. There's all kinds of artistic things going on in the community, along with having a good sports program. That's very uncommon for a school system. That should help with the kids. Okay. So anyway, that's why I'm here. I want to be on the board and help those kids success.
Thanks, Top. Out of all that experience, what do you think is the one or two things that's really going to carry over in this role?
Well, I know that to be good at what you do, you have to study and work at it. And I'm going to be honest, this is something new to me to be on a board like this. So I'm going to have to learn. It's going to be one of those, I mean, you have very talented people that have been on boards and stuff, but I'll have to learn. It'll be a learning curve. But I'm not afraid of a learning curve. Never have been. That's it.
Thanks, Tom.
So like you've said, our school system has a lot going for it. Really great things. What are
More and more.
more than I'm just gonna I was gonna take out the single. I even crossed it out, right? Okay. So tell me what's great about our school system.
Well, I'm going to start with kids. I've worked with these kids for so long. I love the kids. But you know what I really, really like? We have a great staff here. We have a very good community that wants to support what we do. And working here for so long and now being on the outside and looking in, I see how important that is. I've been in schools where they don't have the staff. They don't have the support. And, I mean, it's just one of those things where I think overall, we all have, it's all part of what we do, okay? And so that's what I feel the school system.
Love that.
Okay,
Okay, thank you. What do you believe our school should be accomplishing?
what should be accomplished? The success of the students, no matter what student it is. I mean, we have students that I think sometimes have a hard time. We need to really concentrate on making them successful. There are going to be kids that are not going to go on to college. but we have to make sure that when they leave the school, they will be successful. Okay? I think that's a big thing for me. I'm all about kids, so it's just me. I've worked with them my whole life, so.
My question is about an area, where the school system can improve, and you mentioned in your survey about the small size of the school, so if you'd fold that into your answer about something the board can do about that, or?
Oh, yeah, I think there is. Being a small school, it's actually an advantage, but we need to find a way to get. I'm sorry, and I know there are ways out there. There has to be ways. And I'm willing to go out there and look and see if we can get some more. I mean, all these things that we want to do, it still takes money. It still takes staff. And the only way you're gonna get that is to find money to do it. And I know it's hard to do. I'm not naive. I know that it's difficult. I'm sure you guys find it all the time. But I'm willing to come in and see if we can't find some. I know there's some out there somewhere.
Thank you. What do you believe is the role of the school board and what is the role of the superintendent?
Okay. Okay, being a Marine, you're gonna have to hold on to me here. Okay, let's say, the school is a ship, okay? The staff is the crew, right? The passengers are the kids. To get a successful voyage, captain. Now, who are we? You're going, well, who are we? We're the water. We have to keep it afloat. We have to do our job to make it happen. That's my whole thing for stuff.
Isn't that a Navy analogy, though?
Huh?
That's a Navy analogy.
You know why there's a Navy?
Yeah, they give the Marines a ride to where they go to fight.
You're absolutely right. And actually, there's a Marine on every Navy ship.
Yeah. Just,
I love it.
no, but I know the answer to that
kidding me?
question.
Oh, okay, okay.
Look at that shirt. Look at that shirt and tell me he was a Marine. I'm sorry, this is live, isn't it?
It is. That's all right.
So Top, as you're looking around and you're evaluating educational programs, whether that was music or otherwise, how do you evaluate that? What criteria do you use to evaluate those programs?
Well, and I have to evaluate programs all the time. Musically, you stand back and you listen and you learn. I got a feeling that's probably what you have to do. You have to stand back. You have to listen to all the people that are around you. They all have ideas. Now, some of them work, some of them won't. That's your decision to bring it to the board to say, what about this idea? There's nothing wrong with hashing things out. It's communication between you guys, the superintendent, that is going to make the school system a good school system. So that's, I think that.
No, thank you very much.
How do you respond to criticism?
Oh, no, I'm just kidding. Okay.
Wrong answer.
Try again.
No, here's the thing. I was in the Marine Corps, and believe me, I've been in front of generals that have chewed me up, spit me out. And you know what I did? I went out and did my job. That's all you can do. Everybody's going to have criticism. Band directors, do they ever get any criticism? Yeah. So it's one of those things where you have to take it in. Most criticism has some truth to it. Okay? You gotta remember that. Most criticism has some truth. You have to find out what's truth about that criticism and work on it. Don't let the rest of it talk. Anyway, how can a kid be successful if all we're doing is worrying about other stuff? We gotta make sure they're the focus.
Do you see any issues with confidentiality because of your, I'm sure you still have friends and relationships in the buildings here.
I have all kinds of friends everywhere. No, I see none because the job is right here in between you guys and. But that's what you work at, and that's where all the information has to be. Once you guys make a decision, if I'm not part of it, once we make a decision, that's between us. You know, so I don't have a problem going out and talking.
do have a question, and I don't know the answer to this. As a sub, does that make him an employee of the
I
school?
am not, I'm not working for the school, I'm working for the.
Okay,
That's,
you understand what I'm,
oh, no,
I didn't know if you'd have to give up your
Even after,
subbing
'cause I
job.
went to him and I said, this is the problems I have. I
Good,
asked
you
about
guys-
different things.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure, just like Andrea asked about the other
Yeah.
board
Yeah,
positions.
No, that's a good question. I figured.
I wouldn't want you to have to go to Tri-Central or something.
Well, actually, I would probably,
Yeah.
I would probably, if I do this, then I would probably quit going to Sheridan, even though I like going to Sheridan. And then I'd probably just make it here and maybe only once or twice a week. I don't really need the sub. I love the sub. There's a big difference, you know.
It's kind of nice that you have experience in another school district though, too, right? As a
I'm
board.
sorry?
It'd be nice that you had experience with another school district.
I've had. plenty of
No, but I mean, like, if you
experience.
were still going to Sheridan, you know, it's nice to have a different perspective.
Oh, yeah, it is, but I think the time needs to be spent.
Okay.
This is the number one.
Tell me about the time part of it that we've kind of, you were just
Okay.
sort of touching on that.
All right,
Just
so
because
I-
there is that large ramp up period
I'm
in the learning
musician.
curve.
Okay, so I have a lot of evening rehearsals. Okay, I would drop some of those because this would be number one focus. I have one problem, and that is community band. The community band is very popular in Tiverton, and we're also popular in other places that we don't play. Our rehearsals are on Tuesday night, but my assistant director said he would take my Tuesday nights that I'm here. If I have to spend more time, then we would adjust. Also, we're almost done with it. We'll be done on December the 10th, which is one good school board night. It's a Tuesday. And I have a rehearsal, or not a rehearsal, I have a concert. And I really can't, I tried to move it just in case I got this. I tried to move it, but most of the older people in the band are leaving for Florida. And a lot of the younger ones, they're going, everything's already set, you know, because we do this a year ahead of time. So it's all set. I didn't know this was happening. And so, it's the only time, I will tell you, it's probably the only time that I would miss. And that has to be it. And it's just because I couldn't move. I believe it's important enough that I have to be able to be here. You know, and the training and stuff, I'm not going to do that stuff.
Thank you. That's fair. When things are set on the calendar far in advance, this is a surprise for
Well,
us too, so we understand
And
that.
we work with older people. But I
Okay,
enjoy it.
well, that concludes all of our questions
Uh-huh.
for you. Do you have any questions for us?
Yeah, I do, a couple of questions.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Of course.
Okay. All right, first of all, it's gonna sound crazy. What do you feel is your purpose? I just wanna know if we're thinking the same idea.
Like, you mean, what is the role of the board, or?
Yeah, anybody can answer. I mean, you probably all have the same.
I feel like I'm kind of taking a page from your music book that you've just said, but I really feel like as a board member, I always try to operate with kids first.
Yeah.
Always. When I came on the board almost 4 years ago, there's out there a long list of school board ethics, and there are, I don't know, a myriad of things on there that are duties of a school board member. And the one that sticks out the most to me and is the most important, that is always in the forefront, is always kids first. Every decision should be looked at through that lens. So, you know, we all have the same focus, I would say, but that's what I would say.
Okay, what do you think?
Teachers first. If you put the teachers first and take care of the teachers, it's from a different perspective, right? Because I was a teacher. If you take care of the teachers, you put the teachers first and give them what they need, then you won't have to worry about the kids. It's a little different way of, as a parent versus a teacher looking at it. I don't disagree with you,
Actually,
Sure.
but I
actually,
think
see
we
both
want
of-
the same result, but,
I see both of you. If you
Yeah.
give the teachers what you want, the kids are gonna be successful.
right.
So
It's just a different, it's not that that's wrong, that's the more popular opinion, but
Yeah.
I sat in,
Well,
I sat in that teacher chair and
Yeah, I
you
know what you mean. I
when
know what you
when
mean.
there's the right culture for the teachers. But the answer to your question is, ultimately, we have two jobs.
Okay,
Hire the superintendent and evaluate the superintendent.
to do what again?
Hire the superintendent and evaluate the superintendent. That's really,
Part of it's,
that's,
you feel that that's the biggest part of the job, or, oh boy, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm wanting to learn here. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
it's been a hard thing for me to learn because there's a lot of things you want to get done, but that's not our job. That's his job.
That's. Okay,
Right.
we're-
Absolutely.
And then we get to evaluate it.
Like I said, he's the captain.
Right. No, you're
We're in the
100%
water,
right.
he keeps it afloat.
Right.
Oh, one other question. Are we gonna win? Right,
Absolutely.
Yes.
okay.
Is that a question? It's time for you to step away. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I'm in.
Thank you so
Isla
much for
at
coming
state
out.
finals, so I can't.
No.
Okay.
Thanks, Todd.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you.
Yes, Gary's here, so I told him to go. I know,
We're way ahead of schedule, so.
I know, he came in.
I don't care. I don't want to wait 45 minutes for.
What?
No, just wait. He's here.
Are you willing to make your way to the front? Thank you so much for your flexibility and coming in early. I hope that didn't really change your night up a whole lot.
No, not a whole lot, so
Okay.
we can accommodate.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. So I'm Jennifer Hummerkaus. We spoke on the phone.
Yes,
I
of course.
appreciate you coming. So yeah, to get started, in front of you, you see the questions we're going to ask you. Help yourself to the bottle of water that's there if you need it. But we would love for you to tell us a little about yourself and why you would like to be a member of the school board. I know you alluded to some of that in your application, but
So I'm looking to, I guess, get more connected to the community. I've been in community, really since about 2010. My current wife working here at the school, I was just looking for a possibility to get more involved and to maybe share some of my expertise, because I do have a semi-diverse background. I worked in K-12 in academia for a few years doing technology work, mainly desktop support, level one stuff for Northwestern and Zionsville Community Schools. And then I transitioned into more transportation. I currently work for oil and gas at the moment. Been there for 10 years. Been there for 10 years, and just looking to help leverage some of my experiences and some of my goals to help with the school corporation.
So you mentioned a little bit of your experience. So what do you think carries over from either the transportation work or the K-12 stuff that would be applicable to what we do here?
So I guess I know that a lot of my transportation background, whether it be commercial motor vehicles, we have school buses here, the K-12 or the technology stuff. I have been around classrooms. I kind of have an idea what a lot of teachers need, what we need technology-wise, or what they can use, I guess. And I would like to help facilitate with the budgeting. And I know the board mainly sets policies and procedures and lets the administration handle everything else. So I would like, if whatever we can do to provide the administration or the teachers, even the custodians, the maintenance people, bus drivers, whatever they feel that they need and aligns with our policies and procedures. that would, I feel like that, knowing, coming from coming from my background, that kind of might be able to help steer it, I guess. So if they need something, yeah, that's definitely something you guys could use and very applicable. And I don't know that would be very applicable to our situation here. Whatever they propose, maybe at least having a little bit of a background, I know a little bit more about it.
All right, thank you.
So, in your application, you referenced that your wife works here, and then also you have a daughter in the school system.
Yes.
So you know a lot about our school. So I would love to know, what is great about Tipton Community School Corporation? What stands out in your mind about our school system?
So the small class sizes, for one, the small student to teacher ratios, for the most part, that we have. The administration seems to be very supportive of the teachers. That would be something that I feel should definitely be continued and be supported. So yeah, I think a lot of that, like I say, boils back down to how small the corporation is.
What do you believe our schools should be accomplishing?
I guess I believe that the schools should be preparing students for the real world. Like I say, I've had a pretty diverse background. I was not a college graduate. I did attend college for a few years. So I know that not everybody's set for college. We still need our plumbers. We still need our welders. We need our electricians, all the trades, our mechanics. So I feel like we should be preparing students for that.
My question is about an area where the school can improve, and you mentioned in your application looking outside of the county.
Mhm.
So where do you think we need to improve, and what you meant by looking outside of the county?
So I guess I know we've got four major energy companies here within the district, whether it be Marathon, Country Mark, Duke Energy, Panhandle Southeastern. A lot of them have funding or grants for K-12 or other things like that. I feel like we could leverage more of that. Maybe even go into partnership with them or the Electrical Workers Union, something of that nature. Maybe Samsung with the battery plant up in Kokomo that's coming in might be another opportunity to partner with them for the kids that don't see college as a viable future, that they could maybe work more towards that.
Okay, thanks. I didn't know where you were going with that. Good.
Thank you. What do you believe is the role of the board, and what is the role of the superintendent?
So I guess by the bylaws, I guess you guys would the role of the school board is mainly to set the policies, set the procedures, kind of do the 30,000 overfoot of the administration, where the actual day-to-day, the application of those policies and procedures is handled by Dr. Glaze and Mr. Jaworski and the rest of the building administrations, even down to the teachers and whatnot. So we're there we're setting that goals for them.
Thank you.
As you've evaluated education programming, either your own, for yourself or for your student, how do you do that? What criteria are you using?
So as far as evaluating them, like the programs,
Yeah, what makes it successful in your mind?
how easily or how do the students comprehend the material that they're trying to learn? Are they making the connections easily? Are they struggling? Obviously, that would be a lot of feedback from the teachers or from even the parents themselves of, hey, we don't like this program, or this program is not working. The kids aren't grasping this program. Is there a different program we could try, or is there a different way this can be taught? Whether it be a special educator or a different, even a different teacher coming in with a different method, possibly.
Perfect, thank you.
How do you respond to criticism?
So, I've received some criticism in my life, and I like to think that I try to laugh it off and kind of joke around with people a lot. The only time it really affects you is when you let it affect you. So, what they say is just words most of the time, and if you can laugh it off, ignore it, move on, then their power of their words doesn't really have an effect.
My question is about confidentiality, but first, you said your wife works at one of the schools?
Yeah, she's a elementary teacher.
Elementary teacher, okay. Do you see any issues with not being able to share with her certain privileged information that we have regarding personnel, regarding money, evaluations, that kind of thing?
No, I don't think that would be an issue. Just because we try to, we'll talk to each other about our day, but we don't try to overshare because we like to have our relationship outside of work. She doesn't. My job gets kind of boring, kind of technical sometimes in what I do, and so I understand it can get boring for a lot of people. So we try to have our relationship outside of work because work is not necessarily who we are.
Wanted to ask you about the time commitment, knowing that in the first year of serving on the school board, there's a lot of training and professional development expectations. For the first year, it could be 50 plus hours, and over the course of the year, in addition to kind of the monthly preparation, in addition to school board meetings and additional things, just kind of knowing that that's how we're set up. How does that fit into your schedule, and is that something you think you would be able to manage?
Yeah, I believe I can work that in. I don't know like how you guys do week in advance, a month in advance, how far out you guys start planning the next meetings, or
We work, it's been a real focus of this board to allow more preparation time. So materials get handed down in plenty of time to be able to work through it. And then for trainings, they're scheduled far in advance. So that usually, you've got 2 weeks to a month in order to accommodate the time frames.
yeah, I think that shouldn't be a problem. Like say, just knowing what's coming down the line the next week or two. As long as we can prepare for it, plan for that there shouldn't be any problem with that.
Okay.
And our meetings are always the same, the second Tuesday of the month. Minus the month of the summer we change up, but you'll know it's always the second Tuesday.
Okay.
And then they throw curveballs at us, like this.
You're welcome.
Yes, it does. Special meetings are time to time. You're right.
I believe at this time that concludes all of our questions that we have for you. Do you have any questions for us?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head again. I appreciate the opportunity to come address you folks, and thank you so much.
Yeah, of
It's
course.
really nice to meet you. Thank you.
I will probably be in touch with you sometime either by the end of the week or in the weekend to just kind of let you know as we talk what we're going to do going forward. Whoever is chosen, we will vote them in on our meeting next Tuesday. But I'll let you know. I'll be in touch.
All right.
Okay,
very
thank you
Thanks,
so
Greg.
much.
Thank you. Okay, wonderful. It's nice to.
December.
Beth, you wanna?
It's an empty seat right here.
I have a separate sheet of questions for you.
probably.
That's not dog friendly, is it there? In the parking lot? Oh, it's inside. Oh.
Do you charge extra rent for having a dog?
Glad he adopted.
Hi, Gary. Thank you so much for coming in early. We really appreciate it to shorten our evening and
Late, earlier evening for you that way too.
yes. So I know you have a lot of experience with school boards, but I'll tell you anyways, in front of you is a list of questions that we'll ask. Help yourself to that or even the bottle of water. But to get started, would you be willing to just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to be back on the school board?
Okay. I've lived here in Tipton for 26 years. Grew up mostly here in Parsley. Was graduated from North Central High School, but I went to elementary school at Jefferson Elementary. When I got married, my wife and I both decided we didn't want to live in a huge community in Minneapolis, so I suggested Tipton. We came up, she liked it. So we settled here, raised 4 kids, all 4 graduated from Tipton High School. And when they were in school, I really wanted to become more involved. That's why I originally joined the school board. Is that involvement is what I really want to be a part of, because I really feel that you have to be involved in your kids' education. And that was just an avenue that I decided to take. But I also now have 2 grandchildren attending, and so I'm still looking forward to it. I enjoyed it the whole time. 4 terms was a long time, but I never regretted it.
And my question is the aspect of your experience you believe that would be helpful to you, right? So you could probably just answer 16 years of experience and we can move on to Amber's question. But is there anything you think that you would bring to this board, right? You've probably watched us online or been here. Is there anything you bring from an experience standpoint that you think will be beneficial to the team?
Well, I've always worked in the medical field most of my life. Dealt with insurance. That's pretty much what you dealt with insurance type work. So I do know a little bit, especially when it comes to benefits and things like that. I have a little bit of experience in that area. And I find that a lot of places are very lacking in that area as far as how the interworking of benefits work, especially with their insurances and everything. So I would bring that with me. But the biggest thing I bring is my own compassion.
Perfect. Thank you.
Gary, could you tell us, watching our school system, living here for 26 years, what is our school doing really well? What are some great things that you know about Tipton Community School Corporation?
Well, probably one of the biggest things that I think I know about our kids that come to school is we all, every last kid I've ever met are kind. If anything, we teach them to be kind. We teach them to accept other people. I mean, I've seen kids who are with special needs who are being helped by other kids doing different things. Not only in school, but also in the community. They're very much tight-knit in that regard. They look out for them, regardless of who they are. I think that's probably one of the greatest things that we can do.
A great observation. I love that. Gary, what do you believe our schools should be accomplishing?
Well, allowing every student that we have here to become the best that they can. It's all that we can expect. It's all that we can ask them to do. But I think we should do everything we can to help them accomplish that.
What's an area where you see the school could or needs improvement?
Well, I don't know if you read my responses to your application.
I did.
But one of the things I've always felt is that Tipton schools have always had the potential to be one of the best schools in the country. One thing that's, and I think it's the greatest weakness, is there is an undercurrent of just everyone. It's not one particular group or anything. You get it from parents, you get it from students, you get it from teachers. In the community as a general, there's that undercurrent of we just don't think we have that potential. And I think that's one of the things we need to rectify. We need to prove to people that we have that potential, that we can do that, and that we need to really push and try and make that our focus. Because it's there. You just have to tap it.
Yeah, I didn't understand, thank you, because that's exactly, I didn't understand what you meant by community support, but that, so what can we do as a board?
I think a lot of it has to do with just we have to get out there and we have to encourage the community. We can't just sit in a room and talk. We need to get out, we need to talk to people, we need to show them that that potential is there, make them realize it.
We, the board.
Yes.
Okay. Just making sure we have the right we. Thank you.
Gary, what do you believe is the role of the board and what is the role of the superintendent?
Oh, that is such a loaded question. Because so many people have their own opinions of it. But in essence, it's what it is. The board is here to set policy. That is their real and only purpose, is to set the policy and to manage, to make sure that the superintendent is doing their job. The superintendent's job is to oversee and manage the school system.
In your previous experience on the board and raising kids, as you've looked at educational programs, what criteria did you use to evaluate those?
Criteria, pretty much what we get as far as my own personal observation, recommendations that I saw from the staff, superintendent, and teachers as well. A lot of these programs, there's a lot of programs out there. Are they always a good fit? Not necessarily. It just depends. You have to review them and look at them and decide if they're a good fit or not. And that's a hard thing to actually do. As far as any particular set criteria, I couldn't say that there was one. It just depended on the situation.
Perfect. Thank you, Gary.
How do you respond to criticism?
Well, I'm a very introverted person by nature. And so any criticism that I personally get, I take very seriously. Criticism when I was on the board, there was always criticism. But I always tried to make sure that people understood my point of view on that particular situation. But I was always sort of trying to be as commensurate as I could with them to understand their side as well. Because if you can't look at both sides, you're not going to be able to come to a resolution. So you have to be able to do that. But one thing is that as a board, you have to let the board president do the talking for the entire board. You as an individual cannot say your opinion. That has to come through that person. That is why you elect the president.
So you're saying all criticism should be directed.
Thanks, Eric.
I'm sorry, I think,
Thank you.
I got a note of that.
You don't remember that?
that's what I wrote down.
Definitely writing that down.
When you
Takes a
wear
break.
Did
the
I
big
make-
shoes.
Did I not make the right connection?
And again, I hear Eric Underwood for board president. You never know who's accepting
No,
the job, right?
That was
Eric
me
knows
saying, I don't want to
the
be
job.
president.
Jennifer's reconsidering that.
Oh, okay.
So my question's about confidentiality. You've been on the board before, and you know, small town, and you've lived here a long time. Do you have a way of keeping this board information confidential? What is your policy and practice in that regard?
Working in a medical community, confidentiality is utmost. So it's keep your mouth shut. It's that plain and that simple, really and truthfully. That's how you get yourself into trouble, and that's where some of the criticism comes from.
Gary, you know all too well the time commitment of serving on the board and then the training that comes along with it and the professional development that is encouraged and all that kind of stuff. So you're very familiar with that. How does your schedule accommodate that currently? You know, your life has changed since you've served on those for 4 terms. What does that look like for you now? Is that something that you're able to accommodate?
Oh, yeah. Currently I'm working at the hospital here in registration. And I work 12-hour shifts. We have very liberal PTO program. So taking time off and also trading shifts, that it's never been an issue.
Okay. That's great to know. Thank you.
I think that concludes all of our questions for you. Do you have any questions for us?
What kind of a time frame are you looking at as far as filling the seat?
So we will discuss this as a board over the next couple of days, and then I'll probably reach out to you sometime either by the end of the week or this weekend. We need to swear in the next board member at our November 12th meeting. That's kind of our time frame. So, and then at that time, that person would become part of the board.
Now meetings are still running.
Second Tuesday of every month.
Got them to just under 6 hours, so we're really speedy.
Really?
Yes. So it's not like the old days.
Well, you know,
We're
you
here
guys
till
are using
midnight.
pencil and paper instead of the chiseling on the screen.
It does
So
help.
that helps.
Dr. Glaze is gonna get us computers next year, so we're super excited.
Gary, thank you so much for
Thank you,
coming.
Gary.
Do you have any other questions?
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Gary.
Oh, man.
Thank you. Good to meet you. You too. Thank you. You too. We will.
We will, yeah. Yeah, are we turned off now? We can turn ourselves.
Do we need to
Oh, I need to adjourn. I'm sorry. At this time, we will adjourn our meeting. Thank you for joining us.
That's interesting timing.
Is it free? I'll do it. It's free, I'll do it.